Welcome to the Jayda and Stitches show and happy Easter. As it's the Easter long weekend, that also means it's our Etsy shop's anniversary sale. We opened our shop on Easter 12 years ago, so it's the 11th anniversary sale, which means all weekend long, Friday through Monday, the entire shop is 20% off. So if you want to do a little bit of Easter shopping for yourself, you'll find the link in the description box down below. And thank you very much to everybody who's popped in and made use of the sale already. We really appreciate it. And now on to today's tutorial. What's that you're wearing, Jayda? Could they be a pair of pretty little antique cuffs? Why, yes. Antique lace. The pattern itself isn't really an antique. I just designed it, but the color, the sense, the feel, the aesthetic, definitely very antique-y. I love cuffs. They're such a cute way to dress up a sweater or maybe a denim jacket. They add a little pretty fanciness, a little professionalism, a little something something to any old outfit, and they're very easy to make. You only need a couple of extra buttons, so 2 buttons per cuff to put them on. They go on kind of like a bracelet, and we're using a size 3 fashion weight crochet thread. So if the idea of using thread scares you, fashion weight thread is a large thread. It's still 100% mercerized cotton, but it's big. It's the size of a sock weight yarn. So it's really not that difficult to work with. And you are using a very normal sized hook for these, not a tiny one. So if the idea of working with thread scares you, then this project is a good one to start with. I really like the way these turned out. I'm going to be wearing them all Easter weekend. So without further ado, let's grab our hooks, grab some size 3 crochet thread. We'll head on over to the craft table and we'll stitch up a very pretty pair of antique lace cuffs together. In order to make our pretty little pair of antique lace cuffs, I recommend a size 3 fashion weight crochet thread, 100% mercerized cotton. It's technically the same thickness or weight as a size 1 sock weight yarn. So if you have a ball of sock weight yarn lying around you didn't know what to do with, then you could use it, but it will feel and act a little differently than the crochet thread will. So if you're taking a dive into crochet thread, size 3 fashion weight, that's the stuff you want. Roughly 40 to 50 yards for the pair. You're going to want a 3.5 millimeter hook. This is also known as an E hook. A measuring tape is handy, a pair of scissors, a small needle, like a darning needle, and a needle and thread and a couple of buttons. You're needing 4 buttons, 2 per cuff. These are 1 centimeter diameter buttons, or 3/8 of an inch, and they're the type that have the little shank on the back. I recommend this style of button. They're just prettier and they're easier to do up with one hand. And once you've got all those together, we can get started. First, we want to know what size your wrist is so you know which size of cuff to make. Take your measuring tape, wrap it around your wrist, and see where it crosses. Mine crosses at the 6-inch mark, that's 15 centimeters. I would consider my wrists to be small. Medium size would be roughly 7 inches in circumference or 17.5 centimeters. Larger would be 8 inches in circumference or 20 centimeters, but I'm also going to explain how you can make this to fit a custom measurement. So take a moment, measure the circumference of your wrist so you know what size to make. We're going to begin with a foundation chain row. So start with a slip knot on your hook. For a small wrist, measuring 6 inches or 15 centimeters, you're going to chain 34. For a medium-sized wrist, which is 2.5 centimeters or an inch wider, 38. And for a large wrist, which is 20 centimeters or 8 inches, you're going to chain 42. If you have a custom measurement, you are going to chain sets of 4. So any multiple of 4 sets of chains. Once you get to a multiple of 4 that fits very snugly around your wrist, you're going to add an extra 2 chains for turning, and then we'll all start row 1 together. Once you have a foundation chain that is 34 chains for small size, 38 chains for medium, 42 chains for large, or for a custom measurement, any multiple of 4 chains plus an extra 2 at the end for turning, we can all begin row 1. We are going to skip the first chain from the hook, half double crochet into the second chain. The chain 1 does not count. Half double crochet in each chain all the way back. You will have 33, 37, or 41 stitches at the end of row 1, depending on the size you're making. If you are making a foundation chain based on a custom measurement, your final stitch count for row 1 will be the number of chains that you chained for your foundation row minus 1. So that'll be your stitch count at the end of row 1. At the end of row 1, you should have 33 stitches, 37 stitches, 41 stitches, or a custom number depending on the size of the cuff you are making. More importantly, pull up on your loop, remove your hook, and just try it on around your wrist. If you have to lay it flat on your work surface, and just make sure that the two ends meet comfortably, or rather snugly, with a little bit of stretch all the way around. There's going to be a little stretch, a little give in this cuff, so if there's a little bit of a space between, that's perfectly all right. And if they come together, that's perfectly all right too. And if there's a little itty bit of overlap, that's okay as well, because you can adjust where you put your buttons. Rows 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of this pattern all have the same stitch count. So if you're making the small, once again, 33 stitches at the end of row 1, that will be the same number of stitches for row 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you're making the medium, 37 stitches, the large, 41 stitches, or a custom number, it'll be your multiple of 4 plus 1 now. That's your stitch count at the end of row 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Chain 1 turn at the end of each of these rows. For row 2, we're going to half double crochet in each stitch all the way across. That's the end of row 2. You'll have the same stitch count as you did in row 1. Chain 1 turn at the end of row 2. We're going to half double crochet in the first stitch. Remember, you're always skipping your turning chain. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Half double crochet in the first stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch, half double crochet in the stitch after that. Chain 1, skip a stitch, half double crochet in the stitch after that. Chain 1, skip a stitch, half double crochet in the stitch after that. You're going to chain 1, skip a stitch, half double crochet in the next stitch all the way across. Row 3 ends with chain 1, skip 1, half double crochet in the last stitch. Including your chain 1s and your half double crochet stitches, you'll have the same stitch count as you did for row 1 and row 2. Chain 1 turn at the end of row 3, and we're going to half double crochet in the first stitch. Again, you're skipping your chain 1, which is the turning chain. Half double crochet in the first stitch, half double crochet in the space, half double crochet in the next stitch, half double crochet in the next space, etc. You're going to half double crochet in each stitch and space all the way across. You'll still have the same number of stitches in row 4. At the end of row 4, you'll have the same stitch count as you did in the previous 3 rows. Chain 1, turn, skip the turning chain, and half double crochet in every single stitch all the way back. You'll still have the same number of stitches as you did in the previous 4 rows, and this will be a solid row of half double crochet. At the end of row 5, you'll have 2 solid rows of half double crochet, a row of open work in the middle, and then 2 more rows of solid half double crochet to finish. That's 5 rows. Chain 1, but don't turn. We're going to rotate instead to work down this short edge. You're going to single crochet into the edge of row 5. So just sort of grab a couple loops on the edge of that row there and single crochet. Chain 2, single crochet into the edge of row 3, which was the open work row. So just grab that couple of loops there on the edge. Chain 2, and single crochet into the edge of what was row 1. So again, you're going to grab a couple of loops there. 1, 2, doesn't matter. Then you'll be looking at that foundation chain. Your little tail will probably still be attached to it. Slip stitch right into that. Those are your 2 buttonholes. When you go to stitch your buttons onto the other edge, you'll be making sure that you stitch them on directly opposite those 2 holes. But we'll get to that in a moment. We begin row 6 now, working across what was the foundation chain row. So we're at the bottom, or we're looking at the bottom edge of our cuff. We've just worked down the short edge to put in the buttonholes. So now we're going to work across the bottom, and this is where we start to use that pretty little and familiar split shell stitch. Right where we are, we're going to chain 3. This chain 3 will count as a double crochet, and into the same foundation chain, you're going to double crochet. So 2 double crochet, technically, to begin the row. I find it easiest to grab the actual half double crochet stitches and kind of look at them when I'm counting, as opposed to trying to count across the foundation chains, which can be kind of small and squished. So you're going to count 1, 2, 3 stitches, find the fourth one, and into the bottom of that stitch, or that foundation chain, which is directly opposite or underneath that fourth stitch, we're going to work a split shell. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, all worked into the same chain. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And that is the very familiar split shell. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Skip 3 stitches, find the next one, and work a split shell into the foundation chain underneath that stitch. So skip 3, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into the next foundation chain, skip 3, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet into the next foundation chain, skip 3, and so on. So you're going to have 3 foundation chains, or 3 stitches, in between each of your split shells. There's nothing to do in between split shells. So once you finish 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, skip the next 3 stitches, find the fourth one, and work another split shell into the foundation chain directly underneath that stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way across. I'll catch up with you at the end. When you get all the way across, you're going to skip your last 3 stitches, and into the bottom of the last stitch along that row, you're going to work 2 double crochets. So if you're making a small cuff, you'll have 7 split shells. If you're making a medium-sized cuff, you'll have 8 split shells. If you're making a large cuff, you'll have 9 split shells. Or if you made a measurement, the custom number based on your own measurements, you take however many multiples of 4 you had. So let's say there were 10 multiples of 4 before your extra turning chains. However many multiples of 4 it was, minus 1, that's how many shells or split shells you'll have all the way across. Plus you'll have 2 double crochet on either end. So that is row 6. Row 6 is built across the bottom edge, and it looks like that. Row 7 is a repeat of this row. We're going to chain 3. Chain 3 counts as a double crochet, turn your work, and into the same place that you chained 3 out of, double crochet. So it begins with 2 double crochet. Technically one of them is a chain 3, but it counts. And then you're just looking for the chain 2 space, which is in the middle of every single split shell all the way across. So you'll have the same number of split shells, because you're going to work a split shell into the middle of the split shell from the previous row. So if you had 7 split shells at the end of row 6, you'll have the same number at the end of row 7. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, all worked into the chain 2 space, which is the middle of the split shell from the previous row. So you're lining your split shells up on top of each other. So just look for that chain 2 space, work a new split shell into the middle of a split shell from the previous row, repeat that all the way across, and I'll catch up with you at the end. When you get across to the end of row 7, make your last split shell in the center of the split shell from the previous row, skip to the top of the turning chains, and work 2 double crochet into the top of the chain 3 from the previous row. So 2 double crochet into the same place. So each of the rows 6 and 7 start with 2 double crochet and end with 2 double crochet, and you've got split shells in between. You'll have the same number of split shells at the end of row 7 that you did at the end of row 6. Chain 1 now and turn for row 8. This is our last row. It's a little finishing row. It's all single crochets with 1 little chain tossed in here and there. We single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. Then you single crochet in each of the 3 double crochet that makes up the first half of a split shell. That gets you to a chain 2 space, which is the middle of a split shell. In the middle of a split shell, work single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. Then you single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches, which is the second half of a split shell, and then the first half of the next split shell. Single crochet in each of those stitches. That gets you to the chain 2 space. single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. And that little chain 1 just gives you the nicest little point in the top edge of each of those split shells from the previous row. Single crochet in each stitch. When you get to a chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in it. I will hook up with you at the end of this row. When you get across to the end, work a single crochet in the top of each of those last 3 double crochets of your last split shell, single crochet into the next stitch, and single crochet into the top of what was the turning chains, the chain 3. That is it. You can fasten off. And take a moment to weave in your short tails. So you're going to have this tail, weave it in underneath the stitches there along that last row, row 8. You'll have this little tail in here. You can weave that in underneath the stitches of row 1. Once you've got all your ends woven in, it's time to stitch on your buttons. So grab your buttons, your needle and thread up your needle so that you can double thread it. That's just one long thread with both ends tied together at the end. That just makes sewing on a button a lot easier. Pick up your cuff, decide which you like the front or the back of, and find the side that has the 2 buttonholes. Very important because you'll be sewing the buttons to the opposite side. The buttonholes hop over rows 2 and 4. So it's helpful to just sort of start by taking your needle and anchoring your thread and needle, or needle and thread I should say, on the other side, so the inside edge of row 2 or row 4. And then before you stitch on your buttons, just bring the edges together and make sure that your buttonholes are where you want them to be so that you can put your buttons on in the right place. This is also a good time to try it on. If you've got a little bit of an overlap, like your edges come right together or overlap a little bit, you can set your buttons back in a little, so that will sort of close the gap. In other words, if your button is back here, then the whole edge has to come over a little bit. If you're kind of on the snug side, make sure you stitch them right onto the very edge of the row. And if it pretty much just meets in the middle, then you can just stitch them right along. What I'm doing is kind of between a couple of stitches on row 2 and on row 4. Don't feel you've got to sew very tightly. That's not necessary. But you're going to sew them down so that they don't wiggle around. Maybe 4 or 5 times in the same place. And make sure that you're actually getting around actual crochet stitches and you're not just going through a hole over and over again, because that won't be securing your button to anything and it'll want to come out. Once you've stitched your first button down, I like to bring my needle to the inside and then slowly sort of travel that needle down underneath some of those crochet stitches to about the edge of what is row 4, or where my other button is going to go on. Don't pull too tightly. Double check, bring the edges together, making sure that I'm going to put that second button in the right place. So there's my buttonhole. This is where I want to put my button. Bring my needle out to the correct side, and then I just start sewing on button number 2. Of course, you want to knot your finished sewing on the inside edge of your cuff. I like to kind of get underneath a loop and create a loop in my sewing thread, pass my needle through it. Do it 2 or 3 times just to make sure that it doesn't want to come undone. And I try to do it in the same place every single time. And once I'm fairly certain that it's not going to come undone, I just poke it back underneath some of the stitches just to kind of bury the thread, and then very carefully snip my thread, making sure I don't actually snip any of my crochet. put the needle somewhere safe so that it doesn't get lost. There we go. And the best part, you can try it on. Of course, the pretty frilly part goes down over the top of your hand. I find it easy to kind of hold it with one hand and sort of try to just do it up with the other. If you have to, you can lay your wrist flat on your work surface or have somebody else do them up for you. There we go. All done. And there you have it, a pretty little pair of antique lace cuffs. The idea, the aesthetic is antique. The pattern, brand new. In fact, it and many others are available for sale in our Etsy shop. They are on sale all long weekend. Link in description. Feel free to pop over and take a look. And if you really like this pattern, we've got a simple lace collar pattern that would go along with it very nicely. You could make it in the exact same thread and have a little matched set, which absolutely transforms a plain old sweater or a denim jacket. I hope you enjoyed stitching these up along with us this week, and we'll see you soon here on the Jayda and Stitches Show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, have a wonderful and safe Easter long weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys!
Hi, everybody. Mr. and Stitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.